Morning everybody, Monday, September 24, and we had a few sprinkles last night at best. Waking up this morning and what really had my attention with all these kind of clouds. We have the hairy at the top, the constriction like funnels, and then the ice crystals, the bottom of a layer weeping out of the back. And there's a sky full of them, absolutely full of them, the better part of an hour ago. What's curious is notice at the bottom, we don't all have the same shape. Sometimes they come out the forward, sometimes they come out the back. So that kind of tells you that they're not all in the same environment, that this isn't just wind, that there's something else driving them. Then of course we have the chemtrails. Maybe I have to back up to see the other one. And it's also faded. Coming off these lenticulars that look like they're starting to form over the mountains. The sky's relatively blue, we'll take our sunshine early. But here's more of these quote faux like fall streak clouds. And they're not coming out of any deck of cloud cover. They're condensing, and then the ice crystals are weeping out. I've got the time lapse on it, so I'll be curious to see how they play out today. A little bit closer look at this trail that goes into the cloud over the mountain. And often when I've seen this, it's been we end up with lenticulars along the mountains. I'm kind of thinking that's what's going to happen today, is that we have this already beginning to form. This is just weird. That's just a weird cloud. It's just weird every way you look at it. And then there's the fall streaks to the north, and then whoa, we've had clouds littered up through here, and this also looks like the beginnings of lenticulars. So I'll have to look at satellite and see if we end up with this gorgeous deck of lenticulars along the mountains. Winds will still not be strong enough for them to really naturally exist. So there's something else at play. That's something else we'll watch for you. We just need some rain along the west coast. Had a call from a guy in Northern California, and their forests are just collapsing. They're just collapsing under the extended heat, much like what happened in Texas early in the year. You know, this biosphere needs some water. Water is life. And so much of this nation has been starved of water, and unnaturally so. It's just time for the water to return. All right. Have a southwest flight. Just came over, left a trail. Of course, there's a zone where it failed, and then back over where the lenticulars are starting to form. It's stuck, showing a break here, and a break here. So I fully expect within the hour that all of this will become lenticular. And then he went right through this fall streak cloud that I pointed out earlier. And we get into a little better vantage point for that. You can see on this top part of the cloud where it kind of wants to still maintain its integrity, where it wants to come together, or where the ice crystals are precipitating from. Went right through this guy, right through this back end. And so he's measuring. It's still odd that the trail does not persist inside the cloud, that it goes vacant inside the cloud. It should be the other way around. The trail should persist more so in the cloud than it is. So it's like I said earlier, it's like an inverse humidity moisture, an inverse orgone indicator. And then, we got another one coming through. And then where it had been strongly weeping back and was kind of nice and uniform, we've had these two holes show up. There's two disturbances right in there. Oh, so much happens in the morning. But probably the primary holes for this guy are these two right here, would be my guess. The clouds squirting out in between. This didn't take nearly as long as I thought it might. The lenticulars have already begun. We'll watch this cloud take shape. This is the one that I'm like, oh, that's just not right. And it's morphing very quickly into a lenticular deck. We have got a couple of layers already going on. This is the result of that southwest chemtrail. So this is going to lenticular out very, very quickly. Very quickly. And of course, it's calm down here. You don't need winds to create lenticular clouds anymore. You just don't. You can see up to the north where we've had some of these dome clouds, these lenticulars, they've been full of trails. So weather makers are very aware of their presence and what it signifies energetically for the atmosphere. We go off to the valley where this storm is coming in from the west. This is it's this storm that has prompted all the trailing from late last week across the northwest in California. That storm was over on the San Juans in western Colorado. It'll be here later today. The lenticulars are coming together. You still be able to hear him overhead. And then I was just noticing off the mountaintop this trail. He's fresh. This is what the mountains are so laced with when we end up with these lenticular clouds. And back here you can see it's almost like it was more than just the wingspan that he was leaving behind, and when he crosses in front of the sun, maybe we'll be able to catch that. I think it comes on and off, as it's needed to go to this full wingspan delivery. He certainly has the auxiliary power unit off the back center of the tail going. But they're working on the lenticulars. Got a kink. So we'll see. Yeah, you can see all the different waves and arcs through this. When there shouldn't be, this should just be uniform. One largely uniform parcel of air rolling over the mountains, and it's not. There's all this other wave action in there. They have to have the layers of air grinding against each other to get the atmosphere spinning to the point to where the cloud will manifest. And this trail's going to be with us for a while. I hear another one overhead. I don't see it yet, but I hear him. See, now he looks like a regular contrail, quote-unquote contrail. And then he's hooking up with another plane coming in here. Let's push on in. Looks like a Legion Air, but it's hard to see on the little screen. So they arrived at the precise location out here. He crosses his tail. So we'll see at this cross point what's happening. Well, and you can see the Allegiant Air tail. There's a little bitty spot there that's just persisting a little bit longer. But he was more interested in this. And see, then this guy, after he crosses that Allegiant tail, his trail is beginning to remain visible. You can see just the 3 minutes since this plane left this trail, just how much these clouds have started to grow over here. I mean, it's huge, huge. And all the rippling that is just now manifest. And you notice the rippling on this side of the trail is different than on this side. There's a slight difference in angles. There's a slight difference. Looking at the afternoon of 24 September, just past noontime, UTC. In fact, I should probably update this so we can get the latest imagery. But what I was seeing were more chemtrails. You can see them out in here in a plume well off the Oregon coastline. And then yesterday it had been just incredibly abundant on the tail end of this bit of moisture as it fed into the storm that's now spinning up over the Great Basin. And still, when we see the tail end of these guys, we got the trails that are just abundant across California this afternoon, moving into western Arizona. And then we've got them on the leading edge of this event as it transpires or moves on into Oklahoma. And you can see the little feathery high cloudiness and into Kansas, but on the leading edge of it is where you're going to find the trails, and they have been thick out there today, down into Texas as well. You can see the lines, and then once they thread it on out with the trail structure, then the cirrus begin to fill on in, and then they still come back on in right now into western New Mexico and lace the area with additional trails. Otherwise, the east remains fairly quiet. We do have another cool front surging southward out of Canada, just reinforcing the very chilly air that's all in place. But within that, we're going to find our holes once again, keeping that, this shape confined to what they would like it to be. Lots of sunshine across the southeast, probably just some cumulus clouds across the Carolinas, and then we get into more tropical moisture across Florida. But we're decidedly moving into fall-like weather across a large portion of the United States. I want to look up the California coast and then show you the ship trails. These are surface ships emitting something that creates a condensation within the marine layer, much like what the chemtrails are doing in the atmosphere, in the upper atmosphere. This is happening in that very humid and close to the condensation point level of say, the bottom 3,000–4,000 feet. And then in animations, you can see how these cubes deform, giving them data on just what the weather is doing in the places that they are most interested in. I'll hit the water vapor imagery, and then we'll slip on. In fact, let's just go straight to the visible across the west. We'll be able to see, here's the lines, and the animation will load. Still have a lot of haze across the Pacific Northwest as the fires from this exceedingly dry forest in California and Idaho, parts of Montana, Oregon, and not so much into Washington State, but it is drying out as they were cool and unsettled, but didn't realize a lot of precipitation out of those events this summer. You can see the smoke plume beginning to work offshore. We'll probably have to come back inland into Southern California, the center of the low curling here across northern Nevada. And then you can see these grids that these ships are laying out on the marine layer. And the marine layer moves in a very different direction than the clouds, say, 8,000 feet above that. And so these ships, and they probably number between 150 and maybe 300 of them. They work in the North Atlantic as well, in the marine layer off the coast of Europe and the UK and the French coast in particular. We see those are very common, sadly. So that's kind of what's going on today. We're still waiting for this low, which we have here on the west in the Great Basin. Very chilly air, very strong southerly flow pushing warm air into the Arctic, plunges southbound and keeps much of eastern Canada cool. That storm, we get a bit of a kink, and this will probably develop some more showers tomorrow morning. And then the storm that I'm looking at is this guy here as it rolls into southern Colorado. We've seen a few showers, but it kind of peters out. Not a whole lot happens. But this is where it's going to be busy, is this northern jet stream. Much weaker flow across the states than, say, what we've got across the provinces of Canada. But this low is going to be an anchoring feature out over the Gulf of Alaska as we move into the future with rather tepid jet stream speeds across the continental U.S. Nice high, or strong high, begins to build across the Pacific Northwest once again. This might even set up a bit of a Santa Ana condition as we get to next week in Southern California. And again, they're crispy dry, so this is not good news for those folks in California. So the fire danger remains exceedingly high, and something to be aware of as we move to this last day of September. So we just had a couple of hundredths of an inch of rain. It looked like it was going to do a whole lot more, and then it just fell apart. it just fell apart. And you can see the trail that's been up through here, and it's run perpendicular to the edge of the weeping, well, what's left over of the anvil overhead. And so they've marked that up, and I'm sure this trail is not much more than, say, 23,000 feet. And then the clouds to the west are falling apart as well, so it does not bode well for us getting any rain. Pretty substantial rain this evening. And you can see the trails that are off in there. So they're keenly aware of the status of the rain, how healthy it is, cloud tops, precip potential. They're aware of all that. They're totally aware of everything that's going on. Total information awareness, meteorologically and otherwise. Heard this guy running on the horizon, or overhead. We're just kind of catching up to him. They're so low. They're so low today. They're just not letting this storm develop to any height so we can get any rain out of it. And see, then there's our full trail. Look at the little bastard. So, funny, we have that one hot spot right there. Sounds like thunder. But all this is wrong. All this cloud is wrong. This is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. A little rain shower put a little snow on the mountain. Some color in the leaves. Put a little snow up there. That top is about 14,100 feet. Back on here, there's a little bit of snow. So our snow level is probably right about 12,000 feet today. I'm hearing this rumbling. And that's not from thunder. It's an odd rumble. A plane coming in through up here. One of the business jets. We'll hear him shortly. Running the trails. They're so often the kiss of death. When the agenda is drought, and ours in the West has been, and much of the Midwest, when the jets show up, it's not a good sign. It's just not a good sign. So we'll come out and see if we realize some rain tomorrow. But all of these clouds are wrong. They're wrong. They're way too low for the shape and the type of cloud they are. There's the trail we saw earlier. They set the limit. They set how high the clouds can build. They set how much water can come out of them. They watch things. I've got time lapse today too. We'll see if we can incorporate into this. See, I'm hearing thunder, rumbling. And that's way too far away to hear thunder. Way too far. All kind of weird stuff happening in the sky today. The clouds are the wrong levels. The curls are going in odd directions. And see, I'm seeing this is like a tail clip. If we perfect lighting to see whose plane this is. But what happens is the tails will cross one another. Oh, there's a third plane. I had this one up here. This one come along, and then this one came through. So they're in this messy cloud here. Whatever this is not cumulus, this is not cirrus, this is something else. It's at the wrong level. It's funny when you ask pilots, commercial pilots, because they're up there every bloody day, you know, what's up with the clouds, what's gone? They kind of like turn white and then don't have a reply. Because they know there's crazy shit going on up there. They know it. They know it. And they probably can't talk about it. I mean, they put their lives in danger by speaking the truth. And that's the problem. Is that we have this power structure, this planet, which has no problem killing people to keep their secrets. To keep their secrets. Now look at this. This whole thing is weird. It's weird. We've got an advancing thunderhead. This is the one I was hearing from thunder from before. And it's still on the other side of the valley, 50 miles away. That's just strange. And now we've had let me get to the street here so I got a little better view. But some trails there that are showing some odd behavior. This is kind of an inbound edge of a thunderhead, and you can see the different layers here, how this cloud here is very different from this, and then this one is the cloud like building out this direction. Trail going back in. I saw this one about 10 minutes ago emerging from the top of the thunderhead, and then now see the plane we saw coming in earlier clipped the very tip of this trail of this guy here. He just went right at the very end of it, and you can see how the powders of it, this way the powders are drifting up, now they're down, they're split in the middle, now they're up, and then the trail just magically disappears. Another one coming up and over through this. This cloud here, this is why I went back in to get the camera, was this cloud had a flat middle. The clouds were then curled up and this way, and then at the bottom back and this way. So it was like we had a foil, and it was electrified, and the clouds were curling in to be adhered or attached to that charge. There's something happening right here. You can see that V in there. That's not natural. Come down to the valley floor and you can see the rain in the distance. It's not terribly impressive, but it is a shower, and in the desert you'll take anything you can get, especially with a drought manufactured such as this. Alright, here's another jet. I guess this is the one that came up from here. We'll see if we can't tag him and see some colors here before he slips into the clouds. Now, we got that blue belly. Delta probably. But, you know, he's in. He's going to go right in the heart of this thunderhead. And if he's got this etheric technology in it, then I can bet you dimes to dollars we get nothing but a spit out of this. Nothing will come of this storm. It looks great. It looks great. But that just doesn't hold any bearing anymore. Swing back around to the east. And you can see the trail. Kiss the end of this guy, and you can see how it still sputters along, but nevertheless the mark is there. And there's the point where they crossed. There's the point where they crossed. So, we're in this game, people. We're in this game. And they're playing for keeps. These people are playing for bloody keeps, and it's about time that people did too. Otherwise, you're just going to be loaded off into carts and carried away. It's time for us to stand in our own power. It's just time. Just before we go in, this is too weird. This is just a very unusual shape that's happening right there. Now we have these other waves introduced right in here. That's just a bit on the odd side. Very odd. Another chemtrail plane that went just over the rooftop over there. Small plane, but nevertheless, it's left a fatty, well, semi-fatty. Notice how it's brightest in the tick up, that bump up there, and then all this gray stuff, these stripes and striations. It's like we have fingers here, and they rotate. When all the time-lapse imagery, whenever the rain comes, it's like you're looking at this 10, 20 mile wide disc that's spinning, and the rain is part of that. Back over here, that other trail, how it's turned into a cloud. Just totally different than a contrail. Something seeded the sky in that blue air, and it's sticking. Alright, here's hoping for some rain. Looking off to the south. We've talked about the hairy tops of clouds, and once that happens, I get really depressed when you need rain. And this is another one of those instances where the chemtrail has literally measured the top of the cloud, and the cloud is fading. And here's the wave action. You can see these curls on top of the cloud, and they use this to essentially shear the cloud so it cannot develop any further. And then we've got a kind of a lenticular coming and a fresh trail moving through this. And we've got the ripples, actually the ribbing in this guy, and he's hairy, so he's falling apart. He's been destroyed. And then our event, the one we were looking for some rain to come, and we're not 15 minutes later, and it's shot. It's just shot. The texture has come out. We're left with some waves, but the definition is falling apart. It's shot. And so it happens so quickly. It can happen so quickly, guys. We've got some lenticular starting to come together back over the mountaintops. It's all energetic. The winds are not strong enough to put off true lenticulars. It's all energetic. And then you can see this, we've got this wave that's been introduced all the way through here. And then, of course, you can't introduce the waves and have them show up the right place if you don't have a bloody chemtrail plane to come off and mark it. You know, I'm so sick of these guys. Delta. Yeah, that's Delta. So it's just, I don't know, and I'm curious how he's headed right into this little extension that's come out of the clouds. I mean, straight through it. Straight. It's precision. It's some precision. So, just kind of sharing what I'm seeing with you. Here's another vacant hole right here up in the top of this cloud with the clouds kind of coming off in this direction, off to the east, and then along this way. Well, there's our rain, or bloody well lack of it. You can see out under the cloud. There's not even any virga now coming out from underneath the bottom of the cloud. That's just shot. And these big, huge swipes, big, huge arcs, and that's this huge shear that comes along and kind of focuses it all in one point. And this is the place where we might get a sprinkle. And that's it. All of that aircraft activity, it's all just busted up. This one tiny little shower. It wasn't that big a deal. And I just don't understand why they have to be so intent on squashing it. A little, see, the moisture continues east. It's still here. It just isn't in the form in which it can come out as rain. The vapor continues on to the east, so they're keeping it from here, and maybe it'll manifest somewhere else. Kind of wobbly because I'm looking around me rather than looking at the camera. But you know, it just gets frustrating. And as a weatherman, you know, I like to do a Facebook forecast for our community here, and it's frustrating because this would have been a rain. This would have been a decent afternoon rain, except it's shot. You can see the curls. This is disruptive. You can see that on time lapse, and you'll see that when I play the thing. But it's all of these stripes. Stripe. Same thing overhead. And it all kind of gets pulled back in. So it isn't falling. It's all scooped and directed. You can hear the plane overhead. You can hear the planes. It's really hard not to get mad. It's really hard not to get frustrated by this activity. It's really difficult. Plane up in the distance. We just keep coming. And we got squat out of this. There's a little light shower in town. Just enough to wet the ground. As you can see, the clouds have all kind of gone hairy. We've got the moon coming up. And the clouds are just diffuse. The rain tried to hold on to the mountains for a little bit, but that lasted maybe 10 minutes. You can hear the planes. You can hear the planes. The bloody effing planes. I'm so sick of them. Sick of them, sick of them, sick of them, sick of them. They kill the weather, they kill the storm. It just doesn't matter. They kill it. And so we've lost opportunity for rain this afternoon. We could have had 1/1500ths to 1/4 of an inch. And now that's lost. All right, everybody. Despite all the crap going on in the world, keep looking up.